Okay, welcome everyone to session number 257 of Kevin Reed's A Course in Miracles. Today we are resuming our study of the Manual for Teachers, and we will be focusing on question number 8, which is, how can perception of order of difficulties be avoided? Okay. So let us just begin. Paragraph 1. The belief in order of difficulties is the basis for the world's perception. It rests on differences, on uneven background and shifting foreground, on unequal heights and diverse sizes, of varying degrees of darkness and light, and thousands of contrasts in which each thing seen competes with every other in order to be recognized. A larger object overshadows a smaller one. A brighter thing draws the attention from another with less intensity of appeal. And a more threatening idea, or one conceived as more desirable by the world's standards, completely upsets the mental balance. What the body's eyes behold is only conflict. Look not to them for peace and understanding. Okay. Look not to the body's eyes for peace and understanding. Look not to the body for answers. Don't look for answers in form. Right. You'll see what he's telling us. Everything is in the mind. Right. We select what's important from one minute to the next. Right. And the first sentence here, the belief in order of difficulties is the basis for the world's perception. Which is why the very first sentence in the text of A Course in Miracles says, there is no order of difficulty in miracles. All right. Let me get it precisely here. There is no order of difficulty in miracles. One is not harder or bigger than the other. They're all the same. All expressions of love are maximal. Right? It's just another way of saying one problem, one solution. But he's saying there are no contrasts. One is not bigger or harder than the other. One situation. All right? The world's perception rests on differences. It's the first thing that came up in what they call the tiny mad idea, when the one Son of God thought, oh, maybe I could be separate. Right? Maybe I could be different. Maybe I could be an individual instead of part of this abstract oneness. Right? Boom. The mind is so powerful that it created the image. All right. Next thing you know, the one Son of God, the one mind is split now. And the one Son thinks, oh no, what did I do? Now there's conflict. Now there is conflict. There's conflict between me and God. The first conflict came when I said, maybe I could be an individual. All right? And there was no answer from the oneness. There was no answer from God. The conflict began. I want to be an individual. All right? I'll show you. You won't let me do it. I'll do it myself. right? And it rests on differences. Right? The belief in order of difficulties is the basis for the world's perception. Right? It rests on differences. Right? And that's what it is. Now there's the first thing I did there was differences. There was me and God. Right? Now there's differences. Right? And my split mind, having part of the mind having chosen to believe in separation, very quickly starts seeing all kinds of differences with God. Now he's going to get me. He's after me. I have to get out of here. I have to get out of the mind. And of course, my ego mind says, come on, I got a plan. We'll project out of the mind and into this world. So into this world, and you see there's the universe. Right? I mean, how many differences are there? You know, you can't count them. But just in our own little world, the differences are innumerable. Things are bigger, smaller. It's what he says here. Right? There's a shifting background. Some things are over there. Some things are over here, close. Right? Some things are tall. Some things are short. Some things are in the middle. Right? Some of us are a little larger than the others. Varying degrees of darkness and light. There's thousands of contrasts. That's what's in the world. That's what came with us. Right? And that's what that's how the ego tries to prove I separated. Look at all these differences. We're all separate. There's so many things that prove separation. Right? These things are different. Right? A brighter thing draws the attention from another lesson with less intensity of appeal. All these different contrasts. Right? What the body's eyes behold is only conflict. Right? That's what my body's eyes, that's what they look at. Conflict. All these conflicting images. He says, don't look to the body's eyes. Don't look to them for peace and understanding. Right? He's going to tell us, peace and understanding are in your mind. Illusions are always illusions. Well, let me start that again. Paragraph 2. Illusions are always illusions of differences. How could it be otherwise? Right? By definition, an illusion is an attempt to make something real that is regarded as of major importance, but is recognized as being untrue. The mind, therefore, seeks to make it true out of its intensity of a desire to have it for itself. Illusions are travesties of creation. Attempts to bring truth to lies. Finding truth unacceptable, the mind revolts against truth and gives itself an illusion of victory. Finding health a burden, it retreats into feverish dreams. And in these dreams, the mind is separate, different from other minds, with different interests of its own, and able to gratify its needs at the expense of others. Very succinctly and poetically describes what happened when I believed I was separate. All right? And he says this whole experience is an illusion. Right? And it's always an illusion of differences. The first illusion was that I was different from God, right? But we're not aware of that, right? But I'm just saying that's the first step. I perceive myself as different from God, right? And he says, and illusions are always illusions of differences. He goes, how could it be otherwise? It couldn't be any other way. Because in the oneness, there's nothing different. There's no contrasts. Right? There's nothing to measure up against. There's only the oneness. And it's nigh on impossible for the human brain to comprehend. I mean, intellectually, you can grasp it, but it's something that has to be experienced, right? It's ineffable, as they say. All right. So, by definition, an illusion is an attempt to make something real that is regarded as of major importance, but is recognized as being untrue. All right. So, what was of major importance was that I become an individual. I want to do the same things that God can do. I want to be an individual. That was of major importance. And the illusions here are an attempt to prove that I did it. Right. So it's an attempt to make something real that is regarded as of major importance, my individuality, but is recognized as being untrue. Right? Deep down inside, I know it's not true. Deep down. All right. So that wrong part of the mind therefore seeks to make it true out of its intensity of a desire to have it for itself. So my wrong mind seeks to make it true out of an intense desire to have that individuality for myself. Illusions are travesties of creation. I make believe I do the same thing that God does. Right? Even if I think he's going to come and destroy me, I say, don't worry about it. I'll take care of that too. I'll destroy myself. Right? One way or the other, I get sick. Try to cross the street on a red light, stuff like that. But it's all in that firm desire to prove that, yes, I'm an individual. I can do just what God did. Right? We're trying to tell God, yeah, look, I did it. I did it. It's a travesty of creation. True creation is just the extension of love. Right? A term that we don't even comprehend here. Right? Just has to be experienced. You can use a lot of different ways to describe it. We extend everything everywhere. That's true creation. Okay, but what we have here is a travesty of creation. I make believe I'm a creator. You create works of art. You create other people. You create children, so to speak. Dr. Wapnick's wife, Gloria, would always say, you miscreate. All right? But it's that travesty, it's that make-believe that I'm creating. It's an attempt to bring truth to lies. All right? So the original lie is that I separated from God. Then I project out and I take all that with me, and it all becomes a lie. Everything is a lie. Everything in the ego thought system is a lie. The form, even sometimes those self-concepts, they're lies. The foundation is a lie. And we're attempting to bring truth to the lie. Right? We're trying to make it true. Right? Illusions are, wait, hold on. Paragraph 2, sentence 6. Finding truth unacceptable, the mind revolts against truth and gives itself an illusion of victory. Right? Repeating the idea. Right? Finding truth unacceptable, finding the oneness unacceptable, finding the love of God unacceptable, right? The mind revolts against truth and gives itself an illusion of victory. I did it. Look, I'm here, and I do all my best to prove I am here. That's the illusion of victory. Finding health a burden, it retreats into feverish dreams. Right? Once again, find health, right? The one mind, right? The oneness, once again. The remembrance of your own innocence, right? Your connection to your Creator. That's health. But as one Son of God, we found that a burden. And we retreated into feverish dreams. The world, right? The world, and every level of consciousness. And in these dreams, the mind is separate and different from other minds. All right? All right, this is the call of New York City. Okay. And the air is still very moist, so it magnifies the sound. But even that is part of the feverish dream. It's part of the feverish dream. And in these dreams, the mind is separate and different from other minds, with different interests of its own, and able to gratify its needs at the expense of others. That's an allusion to the special relationship. Right? We use other people, no matter how we disguise it, to gratify our needs, right? My perceived needs, you know. We do it at the expense of others, right? In all different ways, okay? Now, this is not to increase your idea of guilt or your feeling of guilt. It's only just notice it. It's the first step toward healing, as they say, is notice the problem. Say, oh yeah, that's what I do. That's what I do. I get on stage, make believe I'm a comedian. I tell a lot of jokes, make believe I'm really funny and happy, and I get money. I get money for what I need, what I think I need. All right? It's all kinds of bargains. That's just something that popped up in my mind because I think I'm funny. But there's all different ways of gratifying your needs at the expense of others. All right? Some are cute and some are horrific. Okay? It runs the gamut. But in all these dreams, the minds are separate. We don't think about, the one mind, there's one mind. Right? If I ask to see the truth, if I'm willing to see the innocence, then the entire one mind is healed. But we think it's all separate. Right? And once again, this is a process. We keep practicing. Help me to correct my perception. right? Because the belief in an order of difficulty, right, the belief in these contrasts is the basis for my perception. So I need to first recognize the problem. Oh, I'm really looking at this the wrong way. I have the wrong guide. And to come into the mind. Just realizing you have a mind is a miracle, okay? You have a mind, it's split, and we go to the right mind and ask, I'm willing to have my perceptions corrected. And put down your agenda, put down your picture of what corrected means, what correction looks like, okay? And just let the truth rise up. That's a process. And in these dreams, the mind is separate, different from other minds, with different interests of its own and able to gratify its needs at the expense of others. Right? Paragraph 3, where do all these differences come from? Certainly they seem to be in the world outside. Yet it is surely the mind that judges what the eyes behold. It is the mind that interprets the eye's messages and gives them meaning. And this meaning does not exist in the world outside at all. What is seen as reality is simply what the mind prefers. Its hierarchy of values is projected outward, and it sends the body's eyes to find it. The body's eyes will never see, except through differences. Yet it is not the messages they bring on which perception rests. Only the mind evaluates the messages. So only the mind is responsible for seeing. It alone decides whether what is seen is real or illusory, desirable or undesirable, pleasurable or painful. All right. So remember in the first paragraph he says, look not to the body's eyes for peace and understanding. All right. Because the mind interprets everything the eyes report. Right? All your senses, the mind just interprets, right, what it's sensing. Right? And it all depends on what you prefer. Do I prefer chaos, conflict, guilt, or do I prefer the oneness and the peace? Do I prefer to see the innocence? Right? Do I prefer that tranquility that comes with realizing peace? So what's the preference? Is one thing or the other? Okay? I mean, just recently, Jesus talks about something might happen where a small child may come running past you and bump into you. That's what the body's eyes see. That's what the body's sense of touch feels. Right? Now, he says, but it's up to the brain. It's up to the brain to tell you what's going on. Do I want to see, do I choose to see through the eyes of conflict and chaos? Right? Then I might growl at the kid, or correct him, or correct his parents, or just look to project the guilt somewhere. Right? Or do I want to see through the eyes of peace with corrected perception? I don't want to see conflict. I want to see peace. And I just might be able to say, hey, no problem. That's okay. You know? And that's it. The mind. All right? It's all in the mind. What is seen as reality is simply what the mind prefers. Right? So when I decided to believe in separation, that's what that part of the mind preferred. I preferred to see, and that's what happened. Boom. I'm separate from everything. I'm separate from God. And that caused a lot of problems. I had to run out. And now, boom, here's the world. I'm separate from everything. Right? Separate from everything. And that causes a lot of conflict. As Jesus says, now I'm roaming through the world, uncertain, lonely, and in constant fear. Because the mind that prefers individuality prefers that. Because whether it's good, it hurts or what, or it's scary, it proves that I'm here. It proves that I'm separated. So, long run, it's good. That's how the ego thinks. Alrighty then. And it takes its hierarchy of values and it projects them out. And then it sends the body's eyes to find it. Right? I prefer to believe in separation, miscreated this body. Now I send out the body's senses to go prove to me that I was right. Right? And one very poetic section, Jesus says, we send out the hungry hounds of hate, right, that just rip out and scavenge every scrap of guilt they can find, and they bring it back, right, so I could see guilt everywhere, right, those hungry hounds of hate, right, because that's what the mind prefers, no matter how we disguise it. And once you see it, don't stop there. Don't let it make you feel guilty, even worse. Right? Don't let that free-floating guilt all of a sudden become concretized and solidified. Just notice, oh yeah, that's what I do. All right? Because when I first chose to be separated from God, that's the first act of hate. Right? It's like I asked my father for a BB gun. He says, no, I hate him. I hate him. Right? I asked my father, can I go bowling with you and the guys? No, not tonight. I hate him. That was the first act of hate. And then we project. So to believe in separation is an act of hatred. So, and once again, it doesn't make you bad. It just makes you mistaken. You just made a mistake. And that mistake can be corrected. As a matter of fact, it's already been corrected. It's just waiting for us to choose the correction. Right? In the moment I thought I was separate, the correction came. The correction came. No, you're not. Not like that, but, It was automatic. You're not. You're not separate. But we're living in the echoes of the thought of separation. So what we need to do is choose the correction. The thought of separation was a mistake. Now I go to my mind and I choose the correction. I need my perception corrected. As much as you can, all through the day. You don't become obsessive about it, right? As Dr. Wapnick would say, you don't concentrate on every forkful of peas and carrots that you put in your mouth. You never get done with dinner. All right? And I can hear my wife chuckling at the way I say dinner. All right. Yet it is not the messages they bring on which perceptions rest. It's not the messages that they bring, it's the way I interpret what they bring. Right? Only the mind evaluates the messages. And so only the mind is responsible for seeing. Right? And ultimately, if I keep being willing to have my perception corrected, in one moment, in an instant, there will be a great awareness, right? And my perception will be greatly changed, right? And I will see things differently, right? I will interpret things differently. All right. So it is only the mind. So only the mind is responsible for seeing. It alone decides whether what is seen is real or illusory, desirable or undesirable, pleasurable or painful. Okay? And he was talking about that when he was talking about healing in the last session. All right? I mean, people present with broken bodies in all different ways. All different ways. Right? It's up to the teacher of God to join with the Holy Spirit, the memory of who you are, and ask, help me to perceive this correctly. Right? Doesn't mean you ignore it, doesn't mean you don't tend to wounded people, broken people, suffering people. Doesn't mean that. I just want to see it correctly. All right? You're not looking down on them, but just realizing that they're acting out an illusion. All right? And you could be the most merciful person in the world with that awareness. With that awareness, you take care of them. It's just that you're not getting caught up in the drama of the dream. And that takes some practice, but it's a willingness. Your willingness to have my perception corrected. I'm willing. Right? And it's a process. All right? And so my mind alone decides. Is it real or illusory? Is it desirable or undesirable? Pleasurable or painful? Right. And another place in the book, he'll talk about the judgment of the Holy Spirit. So we get to see things, and they're either one of two things. Either this person is extending love, or they're calling out for the love they think is missing. Right? That's it. Everything falls under those categories. And the mind, if we go to the mind will help us decide what is love and what is a call for love. Love is real. The thought that love is missing is an illusion. Okay? And like I say, well, you'll see in this as we go on. Although I like to keep talking, right? Paragraph 4. It is in the sorting out and categorizing activities of the mind that errors in perception enter. And it is here correction must be made. The mind classifies what the body's eyes bring to it according to its preconceived values, judging where each sense datum fits best. What basis could be faultier than this? Unrecognized by itself, it has itself asked to be given what will fit into these categories. And having done so, it concludes the categories must be true. On this, the judgment of all differences rests, because it is on this that judgments of the world depend. Can this be confused and senseless? Can this confused and senseless reasoning be depended on for anything? Right. So it's the sorting out and categorizing of activities of the mind that errors in perception enter. Right? It's like all the stimuli that we encounter, we categorize it. Right? We sort it out, we categorize it. This is important, this is not important. Right? This is dangerous, this is safe. Oh, this is funny, this is stupid. All those things we categorize constantly, all day, categorizing. Right? And sorting out. He says, and it's in that process that the errors in perception enter. Right? So the errors in perception enter in the process of the mind. And it's here that the correction must be made. Right? Then he's telling you that the mind classifies what the body's eyes bring to it according to its preconceived values. So if my preconceived value is I'm separate from the oneness, I'm here and it's me or you, and it's, it's just that. I got to survive. I got to get mine, That's a preconceived notion. Right? That's a preconceived value. So I'm going to judge everything through that prism, through that set of glasses. Right? Everything that my senses report to me, I'm going to be sorting it out and categorizing it and everything through the idea that I'm separated from the oneness. And I'm not even aware of that until I become aware of it. Until I get to that day that says there must be a better way. Right? So it's here in the mind where correction must be made. Help me to see it correctly. I'm willing. Right? The mind classifies what the body's eyes bring it according to its preconceived values, judging where each sense datum fits best. Right? So our senses report different data. Right? And being very grammatically correct. Each sense reports datum, a different thing, okay? And then, according to our preconceived values, the mind sorts it out. It says, oh yeah, that scent is good, that scent is not, that scent is dangerous, right? That scent will help me go get what I want. And so on down the line of senses, judging where each sense datum fits best. Right? Is it helpful? Is it pleasurable? Is it painful? So he says, what basis could be faultier than this? Right? The preconceived notion of being separate. Unrecognized by itself, it has itself asked to be given what will fit into these categories. So I don't realize that that's what I'm doing, but on a deep level, what I'm doing is I'm asking my body, my senses, to prove to me that I separated. Right? It has itself as to be given what will fit into these categories. And each sense will help me to prove I separated. And having done so, it concludes that the categories must be true. Right? So it has to be true. Right? Stepping on that cobblestone is painful. Right? If it's painful, it must be concentrating on my body. It must be a body. All of it. There's just uncountable ways that we do this. But he says, remember, it's what the mind prefers. So I prefer to see things through the eyes of separation. Everything my senses report are going to prove to me that I'm separated. Okay? On this, the judgment of all differences rests, because it is on this judgment. Okay. Let me ground myself here. Sentence 7 in paragraph 4. All right. So, on this, the judgment of all differences rests, because it is on this that judgments of the world depend. All right. The judgments of the world depend on all these categories proving to me that what I thought was true. Right? I thought it was separate. But he says, can this confused and senseless reasoning, in quotes, be depended on for anything? So he says, this reasoning with the ego mind, he says, can it really be dependent on anything? I mean, it's a rhetorical question. The answer is no, because it's all based on illusion. It's based on as if I could separate. All right. So in paragraph 5, he goes, there can be no order of difficulty in healing merely because all sickness is illusion. It is harder to dispel the belief of the insane in a larger hallucination as opposed to a small. Is it harder to dispel the belief of the insane in a larger hallucination as opposed to a smaller one? Will he agree more quickly to the unreality of a louder voice he hears than to that of a softer one? Will he dismiss more easily a whispered demand to kill than a shout? And do the number of pitchforks the devils he sees carrying affect the credibility in his perception? His mind has categorized them all as real, and so they are all real to him. When he realizes they are all illusions, they will disappear. So he says, what's the difference between a shout and a whisper? Right? What's the difference between a big hallucination and a small one? This is an hallucination is hallucination. An illusion is an illusion. Right? Do the number of pitchforks the devils he sees carrying affect their credibility in his perception? His mind has categorized them all as real, and so they're real to him. But when he realizes they are all illusions, they will disappear. And so it is with healing. The properties of illusions, which seem to make them different, are really irrelevant. Right? For their properties are as illusory as they are. The properties of illusions. I mean, my life story, right? Everybody's life story has different illusions, different episodes. Your daily routine has different things that go on. All right? He says the properties of these illusions, what seem to make them different. He says, but they're really irrelevant. All right? We recently got a massive rainstorm. Right? Really massive. He said, but what's the difference between that and, a sun shower? He says, once you realize that the illusion is an illusion, he says the differences are really irrelevant. All right? For their properties are as illusory as they are. All right? And it all, remember, he says, it's the mind that's interpreting what the senses are reporting. Right? So if I want to have my mistaken perception corrected, I go to the mind and contact Jesus, Holy Spirit, right? Whatever symbol of infinite love, whatever makes you comfortable. And ask for the guidance. Join with it. Join with the love. And the illusions will disappear. They can't exist in the same space where the love is. All right? Now, when he's talking about advanced teachers, right? He says, even when you get to that awareness that you are one with the Creator, that you are part of the abstract oneness, and take, for example, you can plug in Jesus to this paragraph here, which is what we aspire to. Right? We aspire to have that awareness. Right? It's got nothing to do with the suffering of the historical Jesus. They're not asked to do that. As a matter of fact, in the text, he says, you don't have to do that. He goes, I already did that. You're not asked to suffer, right? But I'm just saying, you aspire to achieve his awareness, and then you realize that you are the same as he is. Just as he said, I and the Father are one. So this is what will happen. Paragraph 6, the body's eyes will continue to see differences. This is what they're referring to as the happy dream, the real world. The body's eyes will continue to see differences, but the mind that has let itself be healed will no longer acknowledge them. There will be those who seem to be sicker than others, and the body's eyes will report their changed appearances as before. But the healed mind will put them all in one category. They are unreal. This is the gift of its teacher, the understanding that only two categories are meaningful in sorting out the messages the mind receives from what appears to be the outside world. And of these two, but one is real. Just as reality is wholly real, apart from size and shape and time and space, for differences cannot exist within it, so too are illusions without distinctions. The one answer to sickness of any kind is healing. The one answer to illusions, the one answer to all illusions is truth. Okay? So when he says that, you'll just see, you'll see that oh, this person is sick and that person is sick. Some seem to be sicker than others. Right? Now, when he says that, but the healed mind will put them all in one category. They are unreal. And that doesn't mean that you just pick up and walk away from your sick friend or anyone who has come to you for comfort. All right? In the mind, you know that they are acting out. Right? That thought of separation from the oneness and the fear of being punished. The fear, they're afraid of the oneness. And they're just acting it out, just proving that they're here. And you're not going to treat them coldly. You're going to be gentle and just, you're just going to be nice. You're going to be kind. All when he says you're going to just categorize them as unreal, in other words, you're not going to get sucked into the belief in separation because you've already come upon the awareness, right? And you realize that all the world's a stage, as they say, right? And all the people are just actors, to paraphrase, right? All right. And you put them all in one category. They are unreal. This is the gift of its teacher, of the mind's teacher. In the course, we use the terms the Holy Spirit, right? Jesus, the mind's teacher. We go to the mind's teacher for corrected perception, for corrected interpretation of what's going on. And the gift that the teacher gives us is to realize what's real and what's not. Okay? That's the gift of the teacher. The understanding that only two categories are meaningful in sorting out the messages the mind receives from what appears to be the outside world. Right? And of these two, but one is real. There's only two categories. And of the two categories, only one of them is real. Just as reality is wholly real, apart from size and shape and time and space, right? For difference cannot exist within, so too are illusions without distinctions. The one answer to sickness of any kind is healing. The one answer to all illusions is truth. Okay? So he's just saying, don't deny what you see. Right? But nothing you see will be able to take away the peace of God. If we go to the teacher in the mind, right? And we ask, help me to, what am I seeing here? I want to see the truth. I want the truth to arise in my awareness. Right? Remember, use your own language. Right? Or as my niece would say, use your words. All right? Talk to Jesus like he's your friend, because he is. Right? Talk to the Holy Spirit like he's your friend, because he is. He's you. He's your best self. Right? Say, what am I looking at here? I'm willing to see the truth. Right? I don't want to get sucked into the depressive vision of separation. And that's the process. That's, as we go up the ladder, we keep practicing that until we get to the point where we can see that what's in front of me is an illusion. Somebody's believing an illusion. And I don't have to be cold and walk away. I can respond. I can respond with love. Because they either feel that they're lacking love, all right, or they're extending love. That's the only two categories. It's either real or unreal. Okay? So it's the mind that sees. Right? And if I'm walking around with mistaken correct perception, I go to my mind to correct the mistake. And that's how we can avoid seeing an order of difficulty. Right? One disease is worse than the other. Right? One person's personality is worse than the other. All right? We can avoid, we could see the differences, but we won't judge it. It won't mean anything because we'll know one thing is just like the other. All right? It's an illusion. The mind is what sees, according to what we prefer. All righty then. I thank you, and I look forward to the next study group, the next session. And oh, by the way, I keep thinking, and I keep forgetting to say, thank you for helping me to get home. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.